Okay, Dad, thank you so much for being willing to sit down and visit with me about the events that happened on November 22nd, 1963. And as you know, it's the 50-year anniversary of the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And with you being a Dallas police officer at the time, I thought it would be a really good way to kind of commemorate that 50 years, but also learn a little bit about what your life was like as a Dallas police officer at that time. So I appreciate you being willing to do this with me today. So tell me a little bit, first of all, if you don't mind, tell me what your name is and what your role was in the Dallas Police Department in 1963.
Frank Williams. I was a patrolman at Southwest Substation, on patrol. At that time, all of my deal was just patrolling areas out there and routine traffic and investigative work out there at that time.
Okay. And what years were you a member of the Dallas Police Department?
I was hired in 1957 and retired in 1987.
Okay, so 30 years as a Dallas police officer.
32 or 33.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you. So tell me a little bit about that day on November 22nd, 1963. Of course, the president was coming to Dallas, and you were on patrol that day. So take me through your day on that particular day.
Well, it started as a routine day, of course. We never thought anything like this was even going to happen, of course. But we all reported to work and got in their uniforms, and in turn, we relieved the officers that was working the 11 to 7 shift, and then was assigned to a certain district out there. So we left the substation, went out, and we was just routine patrol. And before we had left the substation, I had made arrangements with Officer J.D. Tippett to stop and have lunch around 11:30. That day up at Luba's Cafeteria on Jefferson Avenue. So we were just in routine patrol. I was out south Oak Cliff and he was up towards North Oak Cliff. And about that time we made up the cafeteria and we had lunch. After that we left there and went back to our district for patrolling area. And then around a little bit before 12 or something, it came on the police radio that from the dispatcher that President had been shot in downtown.
Wow.
And of course I was just completely stunned about the whole deal. Yeah. And at that time I was told, along with other units, to report to downtown at the Dealey Plaza at Elm Street there. So we left there and went to downtown to report that we was down there. Whenever we contacted a supervisor, all of a sudden at that time there was a deal come over the radio from the dispatcher that an officer had been shot out in Oak Cliff. So some of us were dispatched out to Oak Cliff to assist the officer out there. Whenever we got out there, we almost got to the scene where he was, and we kept getting information from the dispatcher to us that a witness had seen the shooting of the officer. And then later on, they told us again that the witness was following the suspect up Jefferson Avenue west on Jefferson. So how many officers or how many squad cars was in that going up Jefferson Avenue trying to find the suspect that had shot Officer Tippett. And by then we had heard on the radio that Officer Tippett had been shot and killed. And we followed the information we was getting one way from the dispatcher's office. Evidently the witness was calling in that he was traveling west on Jefferson. So we followed him up there on Jefferson, and at one time whenever we got up to about the Texas Theater, the dispatcher said the suspect had gone into the Texas Theater.
Okay.
So at that time there was maybe 10 squad cars there at that time, because we were actually following the suspect who had killed a police officer.
Yeah.
And whenever I went to the back of the theater, and some went to the front of the theater. When by the time I got to the back of the theater, the back door on the theater was open, and 2 or 3 of us entered from that time, and we started going back up the theater in the aisles up there, and they had turned the lights on in the theater. And what we were really looking for was a suspect that fit the description of the one that we've been following and getting information on. And about halfway up, I noticed there was 3 or 4 or 5 officers about 3 or 4 rows down from the back had converted on one suspect there and grabbed him and wrestling around there. And at that time, the rest of us was moving toward that place. And by that time, we all got up there. The officer at the scene had already made the arrest and got the handcuffs on the suspect and took him outside. And whenever we got outside the theater, out to the sidewalks and stuff, the detectives were there at that time, and the suspect was released to the detectives there at that time, and he was put in a squad car and left. And that was the last time that we ever seen the suspect.
So the police officers that were left there at the Texas Theater, at that point, what did you guys do?
Well, we just milled around more than anything else. We didn't know what else to do.
Okay.
So we got back in our squad cars, and the ones that was involved in the direct arrest was told that they need to go down in town and make out all their reports. Mm-hmm. And that's what they did. And the rest of us that was not in direct contact with the suspect at that time, we just got back in our cars and went back on our patrol out there. But and with a heavy heart, because we knew that one of our men had just already been shot and killed. And of course, we didn't know at that time that he had any connection with the shooting of our president.
Okay. So at the time when y'all converged on the Texas Theater, you were there looking at a suspect who had shot and killed the police officer that you had had lunch with that day?
Yes.
Okay. Wow. So when did you find out that this suspect had anything to do with the assassination of John F. Kennedy?
Personally, I wasn't involved at all with any of the investigation of it.
Right.
So I wouldn't have any knowledge that when it happened. But for me, it might have been a day or 2 later before I ever knew that he was involved in the actual, or was a suspect in the killing of the president.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you for being willing to talk with me today. And I know that for our family, we are very grateful and very thankful that you made it out of that Texas Theater that day, and just really and truly the service that you gave to the city of Dallas. I don't know that we've ever said to you that we are very grateful and proud of the service that you gave to Dallas, and are glad that you were a part of this special time in history, as sad as it was. But is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, no, we don't like to be a part of this, we know that. But whenever it happens, you just hope that you can be of assistance to the citizens of Dallas at that time. And glad that we did get the one that did shoot our president. Yeah. And deep in my heart, I believe that he was the only one that was involved. I know there's a lot of theories out there of different stuff. But from what I know from people that were involved in the direct involved with him, the detectives and stuff like that, the evidence that they got together that I was presented to, and that we all believe that there was only one man involved, and a lot of theories about it, but I honestly believe that we got the man that killed our president.
That's awesome. Thank you.